for me, the worst thing to have riding a motorcycle is a bad feel in your hands. If there's harshness, if you're having to push back, if you're having to pull up, if you're having to do all these things, if you're getting affected from the bumps that you're hitting, all this stuff. So the worst feeling is in the motocross is kind of arm pump, but also having a bad feeling in your hands where you just don't have a good feel with that bike. So the way I see the motorcycle, as we all know, well, when the bike hits something on the track and what the track gives to the bike, well, it dissipates the energy to me by the time it gets up to here. It goes through these tires, it goes through some flex in the rims, the suspension, the chassis has a little bit of flex. You come up to here from the rear end, and now you have rubber mounted spacers in the bars. Then you have these bars, and these bars don't have crossbars, or you have the twin walls, which is bigger than smaller. And then what do you usually do? You put softer grips on. So that's the same thing as going back to the same thing as everything in this bike has to move to its true potential, where what the track is given to the bike and the bike is given to you should be dissipated from the feet by the time it gets up to the middle of your chest. Because motocross is done from the chest down, not from up here. This is almost just directing it. You want to control it, stabilize it, balance it from your toes to your chest. So, like I say, what the bike hits, boom, it's dissipated, and then you barely feel it in your hands, right? But if anything was stiff, harsh, and didn't have movement, then you'd feel it more in your hands, okay? So the same thing, if you're not on your toes and your ankles aren't moving, if you're bending at the knees first and your hips are tucked in, if your back's not straight and it's rounded, well then everything is you're gonna be getting affected from here up. You're gonna be getting thrown forward, you're gonna be getting thrown off your position, you're gonna be getting thrown off your line, and you're always gonna be playing kind of a reaction to the motorcycle, because the motorcycle did this, then you're reacting to what you just got, how you just got affected from it. So we want to put ourselves into a position that it dissipates the energy. So that's why you see the top pros, their head, their chest and everything, they're very still. Everything's moving underneath them, but they're here. Where you see an amateur or a vet or somebody that's not skilled being affected so much because they're not dissipating the energy by the time it gets up to this highest point. And that's where you want to become the most still. Because again, if my head moves, my body moves. If my body moves, well then I'm usually off centered from the motorcycle, or I take the motorcycle offline. Like you coming in the corner and going, I want to go left, your body goes right. Well, what do? You stood the bike up. The bike just followed you. And you can't get back on the gas until your body comes the other direction. So this is what I see, is that the bike's been designed to dissipate this energy by the time it gets to the highest point. We have to put ourselves in a position on the motorcycle to make sure that all that weight is dissipated and stabilized by time the weight or the energy, whatever's happening, by the time it gets up to this point. Because if you're not doing that, then you're going to be affected at the highest point, then you're always behind what the motorcycle is doing.